Hey guys, a Grateful Studio tutorial coming at you. This is Jen with the Grateful Studio. I am the owner and artist of a Grateful Studio, and today I have a fun tutorial for you. I've been having a lot of fun with these little bow tie cutters that I get from FTH Supplies. The link to these cutters and more are in the description of this video. So again, I was playing with these cute little bow tie cutters, and of course you guys may have seen my other videos where I show you how to use a mini tie cutter, like a little necklace tie. And today I'm going to be making a bow tie necklace instead of a mini tie necklace. So this is going to be fun. You guys can decide how extravagant you want to get. I'm going to show you how to make a cute little simple bow tie necklace, and then I'm going to level up so that anybody who has, already has experience with making something simple can really make some cute ties to go in their festival booths and sell in your market. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. So of course, the thing that I really enjoy using is the little tie, or not little tie, but bow tie cutters from FTH. And then I'm going to be using Fimo. Now normally I use Primo Polymer Clay, which is Sculpey Primo Polymer Clay. But it's kind of hard to find all of the colors that I really like to work with lately. So I decided I've already given Fimo Effect for the neon colors a try, and I love working with these. I have yet to run into a bar that is not just perfect and a delight to work with. And then Fimo Soft, sometimes I get a bar once here, once there that needs a little bit of conditioning just to get it workable. But for the most part, these have been treating me very nicely. So I wanted to use these two colors, which are, I have, this one's peppermint. Now, this is blue to me. This looks like a baby blue almost, but it does say peppermint. And then this one right here is the neon purple, which I just love all of the neon, Fimo neon lines. So I just thought these would be some really cute colors to use together. The next thing I have up here is, this right here is a flask. Now I don't drink, I just use this to bake on. And I can't remember exactly where I saw it first, but it was in a tutorial. And it was just, oh my gosh, lightning bolt moment for why haven't I put this in my my usable inventory before, because this is a wonderful tool. It has a curve on both sides, so you can bake it with something that way, or you can turn it over and bake it with a curve. Now if you don't have something curved to bake on, do not worry. Your tie will look adorable even if it's flat, because this tutorial really does give a 3D look and effect to your little bow tie. So don't worry if you don't have something curvy to bake on. Of course, I have my tissue blade to separate my clay from the tile. I also have my crystal katana. This is not something that you need. You can use actually like a white eyeliner pencil if you have that in your kit still. But anyway, I just really like this because it works really well for me. And I'm using these 2mm crystals that I purchase on sale at Hobby Lobby. And they have like the little gold on the back, but they're just 2mm crystals. You can find these really anywhere. But anyway, I buy them when they're 50% off, so that's kind of a good deal for $1.50 a box. The next thing I have is my little knitting needle, which is, I purchased this at Walmart, I believe. Just something really useful that I keep in my kit. It just, it rounds edges and smooths things, and just, I can move things around my clay without really denting my clay or getting any kind of dimple in my clay. But anyway, I digress. The last thing that you're going to need is one of these two things. You will either need the figure 8. This is like a little figure 8. So that's just a connector. And then over here, if you don't have figure eights, you might have something like this in your clay arsenal. And this is just a eyelet screw. And I use these things for so many different things that it's just, I have to have these on hand because they're so awesome. And if you don't have either one of these, if you just really wanted to do this tutorial and you didn't have anything but jump rings, you can use jump rings. My issue with using jump rings is it's really hard to get something embedded in the clay and sticking out at the same time with a jump ring. Stresses me out. So I just prefer something that can embed in the clay, that I can put in the clay and not worry about how much is sticking out, and it just makes it easier for me. So, but if you have those, you can use those. And of course, since I'm going to be making a necklace, you will also need either chain. Of course, your 2 jump rings will connect to this chain. Or you can use beading wire. You will need crimping beads if you use beading wire, but you can bead yourself a necklace, which I have all these little, I believe these are 2mm seed beads. And so I put those on here, and of course my crimping beads, and turn that into a necklace. So it just, whatever you like to do. Of course I make a necklace and earrings, so that's why I usually have 2 sizes of ties. I can't remember if I said that I'm using a 2-inch tie, and I believe this is a 1.5-inch tie, but they fit really nicely together. Okay, so what we're going to work with here, I have my Fimo. If you're working with Primo or Cernit or any other clay, this is going to work just exactly the same way. Just go by the cooking directions according to the package that you are using on your clay. So this right here, I want to take probably about 2 bars of this Fimo, which is basically, it's 1/4 of a bar that I'm going to make a blend of. Now if you want to get ultra simple, it's really hard for me to get ultra simple now, because if you don't know how to blend, or if you don't like to blend, I understand if you don't like to blend because of the work involved, and if you don't have a pasta machine, it is lots of elbow grease. But if you plan to do claying for any amount of time, you know, months worth of claying, then just get yourself a pasta machine. I have an Atlas 150 pasta machine and an Atlas 180. I love them both. Now, I'm going to put these both through my pasta machine. And I want to keep the general thickness, the thickness of each one, so I'm going to make sure that I keep these nice right where they're at here, and I'm just putting this through the pasta machine to get it workable so that it's not crumbly at all. Now if you're new to clay, what I'm doing is I'm feeding this through my pasta machine and cranking the pasta gear, and I am keeping my finger right here and pushing this against the wall of my pasta machine as I'm feeding it through, so that this stays the thickness that it's at. Because if you just put this through your pasta machine several times, what it's going to do is it's eventually going to distort and, you know, not be the width that you want it to be. But for now, I'm just using my my finger or my thumb to make sure that this stays the width that I want it. And now it's workable. So I'm going to fold this in half. And now I'm going to focus on this one, and I'm going to do the same thing to this one that I did to that one. Okay, so now this one's pretty workable as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a blend, and I'm going to fold this over. Now I don't have any bubbles. Make sure you don't have any bubbles, but I'm not really worried about that right now. I'm just going to join these two together here. And I'll even this up as I put it through the pasta machine. Okay, so this is the first run through my pasta machine. It's really messy at first. Don't worry about that. And keep your little pieces together. And I'm just going to feed this through my pasta machine until my blend is beautiful. And again, I'm using my thumb to keep the thickness at where it's at on these. So this is about halfway through. Now, when you're doing this on the pasta machine, you're putting this through the pasta machine at least 20 to 30 times before you get a nice smooth blend. So this has only been through my pasta machine probably about 10 times, and you can see how messy it still is. So if you're new to this and you're wondering why your blend isn't coming out smooth, it's because you have to put it through your pasta machine or do this by hand so many times to mix that and make that nice and smooth as far as a blend. So I'm going to blend this probably 20 more times, and then I will be back and show you what it turns out to look like. Okay, so I'm getting close here. As you can see, the line is not as definite down the middle. What I am going to do now is, my tie, the width of it is 2, but the length of it, as far as top to bottom, is only about 1 inch. And with this smaller one, it's even smaller as far as, how much space you have. And you got to think about what colors do you want your tie to have. Which way are you going to cut this? So for me, I want to have a little bit more play and make sure that I have all 3 of these colors inside my tie. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start squeezing this and reducing the width on my pasta machine. So right now it's, it's the width of my tie just about, if I wanted to cut about 2 inches. Of course, I'd have to let it come out more. If this is how you want your tie looking, perfect, do it. I'm looking for a little bit different of a look, so I'm going to reduce the width of this tie until it's probably about the size of this little tiny tie. And this is like 1.5 inches. So I think that's about what I'm going to bring the width of my clay to. Okay, so from here I have about 10.5 inches of workable space on my slab here. This is set to a thickness of 4 on my pasta machine. My apologies for not stating that sooner. I like the thickness of 4 because it gives a nice weight to the tie, I believe. Even though it's still light, if you want to make 1 layer for the earrings, and then 2 layers for the large necklace tie. So I'm going to start off, of course, with my larger tie, and I'm going to go at an angle. And let's see, make sure there's no hair on this thing. I swore I saw hair. And let's see, I'm going to go at a slight angle and start all the way from the edge. Give it a nice push and a jiggle. I like to jiggle it because it helps separate clay from my tile. This usually doesn't work if my tie stuck really well to the tile. This particular tile doesn't have a shine back on the video, so it makes it easier for you guys to see without my ring light getting in the way. The big ring of light. And so I'm going to do a second cut at a different angle. Right here. And now it's really this simple. You just place one inside the other. Figure out exactly how you want it to look. I think I'm going to do mine opposite where the blue is down below. Isn't that adorable? Okay, so I'm going to set this up here. Now I need a back to my tie, so I'm going to cut another piece. Now the back of my tie I'm not as concerned about, so I'm going to use my scrap for the back of my tie. Now you can choose to put your scrap and jumble it together and just make a slab out of that, which would be pretty, but I'm going to go ahead and put this through my pasta machine again and just smush this together just like this. And I'm going to put this through my pasta machine again, and I will be right back. Okay, so I've put this through the pasta machine quite a few times just to get a nice new blend. And now I'm going to cut out the back of my tie. Now, the wonderful thing about this is you can do exactly the opposite on the back that you did on the front, and it can be a reversible bow tie necklace. So if it ever gets flipped around, it'll look just as good on the back as it does on the front. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to take this. This is the side I want. That is the back. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to embed my little figure eights right at the corner. Now this is where my little needle tool is handy for helping me pull things ever so gently, because I don't want a whole lot of this to show out, because I want the bow to be the main event. And then I'm just going to press this into the clay. Now if you want, you can, this is where you can use a liquid bacon bond if you are concerned. I am not. This is a nice closure to this. And now I'm going to make sure that my edges are nice and rounded. Probably should have done that before I added my figure eight, but this is real life. This is how I work. I always forget and do the thing I should have done after I should do it, but I'm still going to do it. Okay, so now I'm going to add the top layer of my bow on. Use the finger that I have. This is called a finger cot. You can find these in at Walmart or the drugstore. It just helps me cover up fingerprints. I don't like to use them on all my fingers. It's a very irritating feeling, and I don't use them that often. And now if you want something on this part of your bow, this is where you would definitely want to do it before you add this little top piece. But like I said, I'm starting out with ultra simple, and then I'm going to work my way up and show you guys what you can do with some of the other things that I have. And from here, I want to add my little bow right over the top. Of course, I've done all this work that you can't even see. But what I'm going to do, instead of just laying this down flat, I'm going to use my finger and curve this around my finger and lay it down like this. If you can see that. Same thing over here. I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to push this around my finger, and you can use your pinky as well. I'm just lightly curving it and then sticking it down at the curvature that I want. To start adding my bling. Now, being this is a thickness of 4 on my pasta machine, my gems here will embed beautifully into the clay. Once in a while I get one that will pop out. Of course, I try to make sure that is not going to happen before I do my sales, because that would be total bummer. And voila! Here's my first simple bow necklace. It's got a cute little ruffle, so it's got a cute little 3D effect, but it's also got the gem power that we love to see, that sparkle. And if you wanted to make earrings, you just simply do the same thing, but only one layer. So let's go on to the next variation of bow, and let's level it up. So I'm going to pull this neon pink. This is just some wicked cool stuff. I love this stuff. It says fuchsia as well on there. But anyway, I'm going to use this over the top as an accent to our beautiful blue, purple, and, well, blue, dark purple, and then light purple. But anyway, it looks more like a pink, so it just kind of ties all in together. So I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to set this to a thickness of 5 on my pasta machine. Okay, so now that I have my pink set out, my neon pink set out to a thickness of 5 on my pasta machine, and if you notice the same width, I'm going to go ahead and cut out And I will go ahead and fetch the scraps because I will add them to the scraps of my last tie. Alright, so now I have a cute little smooth blend. I'm going to pop out the tie, the top part, put that aside and cut. And again, keep your scraps. That will be part of the back to another tie. Pop this out. And these honestly are almost identical. They're both so pretty. So you just got to decide which one you want to be the front and which one you want to be the back. But honestly, you could make this a two-sided tie at the same time. Again, I'm going to take my figure 8 connectors and place them at the corners of the tie. And just use my little knitting needle to help embed them nice and complete inside the tie. And from that point forward, I just place the top on. Make sure all the corners meet. Otherwise, you're going to have kind of a lopsided tie and it won't be even. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, it almost looks like a snowman shape, but without the arms or anything else. It's really tiny. It's about the size of my, well, tip of my pinky here. And I'm going to take a few cuts. What I love about this is this clay is kind of sticky, but it's not sticking inside the cutter. Now you just, of course you gotta get it off the tile because these are really tiny. And that's where your tissue blade comes in to help. And then you just take that little tiny side and you pinch it. You just pinch it a little flat. And now twist it like a hook and keep turning. Just like that, keep turning. And then you have yourself a little rose, a little tiny rosette. Like, I don't know how well you guys can see this, but it's super tiny, super cute. And now, you see how the walls of the rose are thick? You can make that thinner and more realistic by simply pinching on all of the tip of one side of the rose. Therefore, you make the petals flat. And then again, you just twist it inside, make a hook, and just keep going. And there you go. It looks a little bit more realistic, and you can pull on the petals and pinch the corners if you want to make it like a little realistic bud looking. So I'm going to do that to all of these, and I will come back to you when I'm all done. So now that I have my little rosettes, I'm going to figure out exactly where I want to place them. And I was thinking lining the middle of this bow here. And that's where my knitting needle also helps, because I can stick that down the rosebud and pick it up and move it around. Now I have not pushed them in. I'm just designing how I want that to look. And now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to do that again. Now I'm probably cutting out more than I need, but what I want to do is I'm going to fill this in with little rosettes. Now if you want to make a larger rose, all you do is before you get to the end, take another piece and do the exact same thing. Pinch one side And now take that smallest side and join it near the top edge of the last petal, just like that. Just that, if you can see that. I'm just taking these three and joining them, and then I'm going to pinch that down just so it flattens out, and I'm going to continue rolling. Now, when you add to that like that, you can leave it like this, or you can pinch your leaves, or not your leaves, but your petals, by pinching them in, which will give it that pointed leaf. So you can see that. I just did that to one of the leaves. Now if you want this even larger, pinch that bottom right there, that corner, so that this comes out a little bit more. Get another 3, pinch the sides really good, because this time you're going to use a lot more. It's okay if they're distorted and you can't really see. Now join it at that corner, just right there. Pinch that together to flatten it out, and just roll again. Now don't pull. Now you're going to push this middle, this part right here, you're going to kind of push that in there so that this leaf here, let me get my needle tool. This leaf right here, you do not want that hugging too tightly. You want it to have enough space that when you join this to this, that it stays fluttered outwards. And then I'll just tuck that in with my needle tool. Now the bottom is all distorted. Doesn't matter, as long as your leaves look good. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to pinch this just slightly, and this side if I can. Very carefully. I don't want this to tuck in, I want that to be outward. See how realistic that looks? Now it doesn't matter that the bottom's distorted because we're only going to see this. And you can take your needle tool, tuck it into the middle, and use it to guide where you want it to go down here. But I'm not ready for that right now. I'm going to tuck that off to the side very carefully, not to distort it, and let that rest. And I'm going to make some more little rosette buds, little pink rosette buds. All right, now I just have to figure out if I have enough rosettes, little buds here, making sure these little pieces are joined to the clay. And I'm not worried about it looking pretty because this is all going to be covered. And I'm more concerned about it joining to the clay properly. Now this is where a little bit of liquid clay is going to prove in handy. So I recommend using Bacon Bond if you're using Primo or Sculpey. Doesn't need much. Before I put the larger rose in here. And she fits in just nicely. And I'm just going to use my knitting needle to kind of push that in there. That's what I like about my knitting needle is when I'm doing roses, I can really maneuver them around without injuring the petals. Okay, so for the last thing on this particular one is there's a little bit of debris on my bow, so I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol to get rid of that. And you can also use the alcohol to smooth sides as well. If you leave any fingerprints on your bow, now's a good time to buff those out with either finger cut or rubbing alcohol. But this bow is done. I do that, I'm going to put an imprint just lightly of the tie on here before I start cutting. And the reason I do that is because I will put this in a very specific way to make sure that it's even throughout the entire tie. So I'm going to move this camera in closer so you can see exactly what it is that I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Is I'm going to make sure that my cuts are just imprinted on here first, because I want to make sure that this is in the middle of the bow. And I think that is correct. I'm gonna go down here and try and cut exactly where I wanted to cut. Now I want to leave a little space in between each of these little cuts that I make. And once you start doing this on a regular basis using this particular cutter, you'll get faster at doing this. I'm doing it fast just because I've done this. I've made a few of these, if you can guess. The key is starting off in the middle of the tie first, and then working your way out. See, even I question where I want my final cut to go. Okay, so now that I have these all cut out like that, now I know where they will fit on my tie. Okay, so now I'm going to separate these carefully from the tile, but I don't want to move them from where they're at because I know exactly where they go on the tie, so I don't get mixed up. So I know this is the middle, these two are the middle, so that's where I'm going to start, but not before I get them off of my blade, because I will need it. Okay. You can use a handheld blade or you can use your tissue blade, but you will need a blade. And if you see that little indent right there, I'm going to cut just below that indent. And I'm going to take this little tiny piece and I'm going to put it on my tie, right in the middle. And I'm going to do the same thing to the top piece. Alright, so those two pieces are extra. Now I'm going to work my way from the inside out. So I'm going to start with this little piece right here. going to do the same thing to the other side. And now another piece needs to have a line cut. Got a little bit of debris on it. That's okay. Now, you may ask yourself, or me for that matter, why do I choose to cut these this way instead of put these on the slab and then cut them with the tie itself, which I have done actually. And what I have found is that the edges are nice and clean when I do it this way. That I trust that this way is going to be the safest way for this these pieces not to get too distorted. You can wrap those around to kind of give it a 3D effect, or you can chop them off. I had roses over here, and then over here I had this drip cutter. Now I'm going to use the drip cutter first, and I'll show you why here in a second. When you do 3D bows, what usually is for the front and the back are two very bright but different colors. And so for this I chose to use this regular, to me it looks like a turquoise or sky blue mixed with this neon pink to give it kind of like a neon pink or a punk rock type of look. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a drip from both this blue and the neon pink, and before that I do that I'm going to dust my clay very lightly with some cornstarch, which is a fabulous tip. I might add, if you have cutters that make it so you can't cut because they're so small, the clay gets inside them, and it makes the cutter useless. Now this cutter can be tricky if you do not cut all the way through. But I did cut all the way through. I just got one little dude that wanted to hang out in there. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the pink. But it'll certainly make it easier to get these little guys out. Using my knitting needle also helps me push down on the clay, help aid in getting it secured faster. It's always this one last little loop over here that wants to give me trouble in dislodging from the clay. Alright, this one didn't come out quite as easy, but that's okay because this is going to be more or less the background and this is going to be the foreground. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to make a rose. And I want to make this a large rose, so I'm going to connect several of these petals together, just like I did before. Now that I've finished that, I'm going to cut this bottom flat, or as flat as I can without cutting my finger, just like that. And I'm going to stick that right here. Now, what I think is I'm going to bring it right there. This is where I'm going to bring it. See, I'm holding that right there. I'm just going to push down so that my fingerprints are in there. I can see those fingerprints are there. You may not be able to, but I can. That's the important thing. As long as you can see where your indents are, you know where to start. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take this area and I'm going to cut my tie shape right into that. I'm going to take my blade. I'm going to clear that. So all that's left after I separate this from the tile is that piece of drip right here. Now, you're going to want to add your findings now because you might forget. Add my figure 8 findings. Actually, that's the back. This is the inside of my tie here. All right. Now, my rose isn't on here yet, okay? For now, I'm just going to take this little guy and place him here and make sure this is all even. Take my knitting needle. Make sure there's no bubbles in there. And now I'm going to take that blue drip and I'm going to tuck it right in here. And you see how it's kind of messy right here? A little bit messy there. That's okay. You just want to join this in there and then smooth it with a little, maybe a little rubber tool or whatever tool that you find that's easy. And just join those two seams together there. And I'm going to round this edge off. You try. Is your rose right where you're going to cut your drip, and cut around it. Pull everything away so that you can see that what it looks like before you add it on here. And now this is where you want to just make it looking a little bit more natural without the corner there on the edge. You smooth down your sides. Okay, now I'm going to separate this from the tile. I'm going to add it right over the top and see how that looks. Now sometimes turning it over might reveal a different design. And don't be afraid to grab your scraps and see what it would look like if you use that exact drip that's right behind it. I myself think I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. I'm going to round these corners just by manipulating it with my finger, which is going to make it non-flat and more, I don't know, I just like the way it looks. And I'm going to add my rose right on top. So now I have to join my rose here, and that's what I love my little needle tool for. I just grab that and I work that down into the center. And then I just manipulate the leaves a little bit back into shape if there's any misshaping or if I just want to add some more shape to it. And for the cherry on top, if you want, you can add a nice little cute little gem right in the middle of your flower. Okay, so for this final tie, I'm going to use that cute little cutter again. I'm going to have my little figure eights. Push off this extra clay. And I'm going to be using these really cute Swarovski. They're like pearls. They're flat back pearls. So they're hot fix, so I'm assuming these are going to be fine in the oven. But we shall find out. And make sure everything's up to how you want it to look. Now, if you have one of these steel soaps, is what they're called, you can actually bake one of your ties right on top of this little guy if you just want to do one or two. Gives a more rounded edge, even more so than you're cooking on a flask. And I will add these and the fourth tie into my oven, and I will cook it for 45 minutes at 275 degrees. And I will be back after that to finish making the necklaces. Okay, everything is baked and cooled off and ready to go. I have one that is already finished and ready to look at for you guys. I just add a couple of dangly beads on the side here, and I put it on a chain. And so if you're going to put this on a regular chain, basically all you really need is your connectors. These are I believe 6 millimeter or 6 gauge heavy jump rings that I use, and I have a spool of this chain that I just measure mine from. Now, in my opinion, these ties look wonderful around the collarbone, and so these are kind of like a choker style type necklace to me. You can let them hang anywhere and they'll look adorable, but just in my opinion, like where I like to wear mine is up around the collarbone. So I put mine to my chain to 12 inches, and then you can also, and of course you need your jump ring and your chain ready to go, or you can bead, like I told you before, that you can bead your own chain. This is beaded to 11 inches, and you can put extenders on this. You don't have to make it a screw link right here like I did for this one. You can make it to where you can extend it for a client if they want it to be larger. But anyway, I pre-beaded this, and you need crimping beads, and you need beading wire, and I used 45mm beading wire, and then crimping beads, and then just crimped it off and made a cute little beaded necklace there. You can also use colored chains. These I found at I happened to find these at Hobby Lobby that they match perfectly with my ties, so I'm going to go ahead and use these as well. So I have 4 here. And of course I showed you I made this one, and it's basically the same exact way, just using yellow, I'm not yellow, but orange, neon pink with a muted or darker purple in the background. So that's really cute. So let's get started. So this one over here, I'm going to start with this one. And let's see, I think this one, let's see, which chain looks the best. I think, honestly, I like the beaded one the best, so I'm gonna need, of course, my connectors, which what you do is you just hold on to one side and you turn it sideways. You do not pull them apart, so you're gonna be like this and turn. Put that on there, add my beaded wire here, and close that off. Then do the same thing for the other side. And the reason I decided not to bead this in front of you guys is because beading takes a long time, which extends this video. And I think you guys get the gist of basically the way I bead is I add contrasting colors, and I add 3 of one color, and then just make a pattern. That's all you have to do, a pattern you like. Now I did want to show you that the curve on this tie, putting it on the steel soap compared to putting it on here. So I wanted to show you from an angle what that looks like, how much of a curve. You can see that putting it on the steel soap makes a much more rounded curve. So I just wanted to show you, just in case you wanted one over the other. I think this is going to be perfect, just kind of round it off like that. So the next ones, I'll put these right here. This one right here, I'm going to go ahead and make this the chain, and then I also need my links for closing my chain. Put my clasp on. And now easily, if you were at an event and you wanted to add some space onto that, all you need to do is have a lobster claw, an additional lobster claw, with about, 2 inches or so of links, and then you can just attach it and have that extension there on that chain for you. But since I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to put an extension on there right now. I can just add that later at an event. So I usually have those pre-made so that if somebody does come up and want a longer chain, I am ready to do that. I'm putting a couple of links on here, and then voila. Okay, so now for the last two. I was thinking for this one right here, this turquoise would go great on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang this exactly. There's an extension already on this because it's 16 inches. I'm going to connect the link right where it would close, and I'm going to disconnect it right here in the middle. And then connect each side carefully. And there we go. And all done.